Hey guys, what's going on? I'm coming at you today with a 1v2 guide. You guys have asked me how to 1v2, and while I think it's difficult to explain to you guys exactly how to 1v2, because each match is different and unique, I can talk about 1v2s for a little bit, and then we'll go into some matches, and I will break down my mindset to give you guys an idea of how I go about things. But first, I'm in the shrine here, and I'm standing next to this random monk who has my bro mog on. So shout out to Chaos Slayer, that's awesome, man. Okay, so 1v2s. You tank your rating, and you're counting on two things. One is that the enemy team is not very skilled, or that they're undergeared, or both. Realistically, if you went up against a team that knew what they were doing, you wouldn't stand a chance. It's just the way it is, and it happens. So realize that you're going to lose sometimes, and that losing isn't necessarily a bad thing. It may just mean that the enemy team knows what they're doing, and it's unfair to begin with. And there are a couple other factors that go into 1v2 that help a lot. One is really understanding your class, and two is really understanding other classes and how your class fares up against them. Now, guys, I know this was like a very basic explanation of 1v2s, but that's really it. That's the fundamentals, and I can't really explain to you guys how to win your matches. You have to figure it out on your own. I do think, though, that 1v2s really help you improve as a PvPer. Because if you think about it, you're going up against two players, and you have to play both better offensively and defensively than the two players on the enemy team combined. So, you know, what I'm saying is you don't have a healer to keep you alive. You gotta keep yourself up, and at the same time, put out enough pressure to kill someone and eventually win the match. So let's get into it, guys. Let's get into some 1v2 matches, and I'll break down how I go about things. Okay, so ignore the old me down in the corner of the screen there. This is some old footage I'm using to give you guys some examples. Before each match, I try to come up with an initial strategy. I observe the enemy team and pick what I think would be the best kill target. Here, I'm up against a hunter and a priest. I'm thinking I'll go after the priest first. Sometimes, my initial strategy changes immediately once the gate opens, by looking at the enemy team's health bars and determining if any of them are undergeared. In this case, I can actually see that the priest is undergeared, which further solidifies my plan. The priest stayed on his mount, which made it difficult for me to catch him. Eventually, the hunter opened up on me, and now I can no longer mount up to catch the priest. I quickly improvised and dropped my transcendence on one side of the pillar and continued on pretending I was chasing the priest. I then quickly ported back and caught him. The hunter starts putting pressure on me fast, and I felt I needed to put out some counter pressure. I karma'd here to give myself some uptime. I see a perfect opportunity to start my burst with a leg sweep here on both of them. Unfortunately, the Scythian fears me, but a quick nimble brute takes care of that. I was able to successfully down the priest on my first attempt. Here is one of the most important tips I can give you guys while 1v2ing. Use your mobility to your advantage. Once I killed the priest, I quickly got out of the hunter's line of sight to heal up. Always use line of sight to your advantage when you need to heal up or when you feel the enemy is really pressuring you. Here, I'm up against a Fury and an Arms Warrior. My strategy for this one is decided as soon as the gates open. I can see the Arms Warrior is a little undergeared, so I decide I'm going to go for him. They don't really pressure me at the start, so I decide to do some damage. I leg sweep and pop the 5 stack of Tiger Eye. Once the Arms Warrior is out of my stuns, he pops some defensives. I paralyze the Fury Warrior and roll away because I feel it is pointless to stay in the fight while the enemy has his defensives up. I decide to wait for his cooldowns to drop before I re-engage the Arms Warrior. Once I get back into the fight, the Fury Warrior starts bursting me. I karma my kill target, and it's an easy win. In this one, I'm facing a Mistweaver and a DK. At the start, I honestly don't know who to get on. Both of these classes can be a pain to bring down quickly. I do notice that the Mistweaver is missing some gear though, so I figure my best bet is to make a hard swap to him eventually. The DK does some good damage, but I'm able to stay alive by hugging the pillar and using my karmas from time to time. Throughout the match, I'm trying to set up my swap to the Mistweaver by trying to get him to use a Trinket or Nimble Brew, but nothing is working. It seems pretty hopeless, but in the end, I just decided to go for it, and lucky me, I killed him with all of his cooldowns up on my first try. Here we have a Warlock and a DK team. I quickly decide I want to kill the Warlock. Against Warlocks, I always like to rush them at the start to prevent a gateway. This DK stops my plans though, and the Warlock gets his gate up. When the Warlock puts his port down, I decide to put my Transcendence on top of it. I don't want him getting away from me. Here, the Warlock accidentally pops his Trinket. This is good for me. The Warlock then uses his gateway and flies across the map. My Flying Serpent kick is on cooldown, so I decide to improvise. I stay back and start killing his pet. I'm also building my Tiger Eye stacks by doing this. When the Warlock comes back, he summons his pet again. Since I already killed his first pet, I decide to kill this pet as well, just in case he's running Soul Link. They're pressuring me hard here, but I need to go on the offensive. I karma the Warlock. Eventually, he teleports and I quickly port to him. I feel this is the perfect moment to burst him, as he's out of sight from his partner and missing a lot of his cooldowns. In the end, the DK does manage to death grip me away, but it's already too late. My Chi Wave finishes off the Warlock with a 36k crit. I then use the pillar to heal up and eventually finish off the DK. Here is my last clip. This time, I'm up against a Druid and a Warrior. Before the match starts, I'm thinking the Druid is going to be my kill target. I figure I'd kill him in a hard swap, but first I need to set it up. When the gates open, I notice both of them are geared. This is going to be a challenge. The Warrior charges me fast, and I want to bait that Druid's Trinket. I quickly decide to pull the Warrior away from his healer's line of sight. This pulls the Druid into the action, right where I want him. I see the perfect opportunity to leg sweep them both. I follow the leg sweep up with a paralysis on the Druid. I then kick the Druid's next cast, but unfortunately, through all of this, I can't get the Druid to Trinket. As the match goes on, I use my mobility to relieve as much pressure as I can. My next plan of action is to just go for the Druid directly and see if he Trinkets then. On my next burst attempt on the Druid, I get him to Trinket quickly. This is good for me, as I now know I have a good 2-minute window to get the kill. Eventually, I ramp up my burst again, and this time, the Druid can't escape. Using my mobility and lining the Warrior, I'm able to heal up and take him down easily. GG, I hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching, guys.